Welcome back, everybody. I know it's been a little while. Been hanging out, keeping low key, but that's because it's been so cold, and I've been on the search for parts for not only the CB350F, but the Black Bomber as well. Now, I should probably get into this. I would like to take the front end of this apart, but in doing so, I want to paint these parts here. I did get another ear for the bent one. The problem is, yeah, it is too cold outside. I have nowhere to paint anything because, you know, it should be like 60 degrees or so when you paint, and when it's constantly freezing outside, that makes it tough, and I have nowhere inside to paint. But I'll try to remedy that somehow. These bikes, especially that one, if you're like me and you want to, you know, buy a bike that's needs a lot of work and get it safe and on the road again, you got to take some chances. This bike, the guy I bought it from knew nothing about it. He got it when he bought other bikes. He took it. And to be honest, what did I do? I put some plugs in it, rebuilt the carbs. I think the carbs, for all four, I think the carb set was like a little over $20. So basically, it probably would have ran with the plugs it had. Who knows? So basically, that's pretty much what I got into it. It's just the carb kits as of now. So yeah, you could get away with that. Take it out and see if it runs. I like to, you know, make sure everything's safe. I like to do wheel bearings, you know, tires, steering head bearings, you know, if it needs swing arm bearings, you know, stuff like that. I like to take it apart and see what it kind of needs to be a safe bike. I don't know if it's charging yet, but yeah, you could have done that. You could have bought this bike for a few $100. You could have rebuilt the carbs, taken it for a ride, see if it shifts good and all that, see if it charges. If you wanted to flip it, you could sell it. You know, if you're not, you go from there. I still would like to get this bike nice and hot, make sure everything's good on it. But regardless, you know, we know it runs now. So this bike was a good deal. This bike really didn't need hardly anything, you know, get it running and stuff. The flip of the coin is when you buy a bike like this. And this is why, you know, when you go to see a bike and the guy says, oh, it's a rare bike and this and that, you're like, okay, but I'm not paying a lot for this bike, rare or not, because this bike, you could tell when I went to look at it, this bike was going to need a lot more than this bike. I mean, we didn't know if the engine was good in this or not. But, I mean, you're taking the same chance with both bikes. That's why you don't pay a lot for these bikes. You know, I don't care how rare this is. It's missing a lot of parts. The tank is very rusty, inside and out. You know, the reason it probably doesn't have a fender on it is because the ears where you mount the little stands offset there are broken off. So you got to find a lower fork, and nothing on this bike is cheap. Found a pretty crappy used muffler. Had a lot of rust and stuff in it, but it'll be good enough, you know, to keep it quiet for a little bit. See if it runs and all that. See if we can find something better. But yeah, it needs a frame. It needs a seat. The rear fender's rotted out. The wiring's kind of cooked on a lot of places. I found another positive cable used that I'm going to put in there. I mean, even if I put a battery in it, which I'm going to do, because the battery from this bike is the same size. What's there to check electrically? I don't have any taillights. I don't have a speedometer cluster. I don't have a headlight. No signal lights on this bike. The only thing I probably can do is check to see if there's power at the coils. Yeah. Needs a chain guard. It needs a lot. And you're going to see as I start working on this bike, like I said, I have a frame coming for it. It should be here early next week. And that's a frame. So you consider this a motorcycle? And the frame a frame? When are you going to start to consider that frame as a motorcycle and this not as a motorcycle anymore? You know, as parts come off and get redone and reinstalled on a different frame. I would like to see if this engine turns over. I have no idea. Like I said, if this engine's no good, I'll see what I can do, but if worse comes to worse, we get one from like a 68 and up that has the 5-speed in it and put that in. It'll kind of look the same on the outside. Just, you know, I think bigger valves and stuff on the newer ones. Yeah, wrong handlebars. They're rotted anyway. There's just so much this bike needs. But, like I said, maybe we'll take the battery out of this one, put it in that one, and just see if we have anything power-wise, you know, if our ignition works. Even the horn is a special horn, and it doesn't have one. The bracket's there, but it's gone. I think there's something either wrong with the transmission or the shift shaft. I don't believe that's supposed to be that low, and when you go to shift it, it looks like it's bent or something. It's not loose, it doesn't wiggle, but when you shift it, it definitely rises that stem, so I'm guessing that's bent. Is there anything on this bike that's not going to get replaced? I mean, the headlight shell is good. The fork ears, I think, are good. The top tree is good. The side covers, I mean, I'll use those. Hopefully the rims will clean up. We'll see what we got, you know, as far as brake drums and all that stuff. It does seem to have a working clutch. That may be the one thing on this bike that works. All right, let's get the battery out of this one, and I gotta take the starter solenoid off, replace this cable, maybe fix up these ends that are like literally hanging on by a thread. That's the main power, and we'll see what we got. Continue. All right, well, there's no cable going to the starter. Jeez. All right, so what I found out is this goes here, and this goes, obviously it's short, so the positive side of the battery is over here, is that the cable here, which I thought, because it was on this side, was going to be the negative cable, runs to the starter. So this cable needs to be over on this side. Somebody got that thing in the wrong location. I gotta make sure I can get it over there so it's long enough. I must go on that side of the battery box. All right, not the battery box, sorry. Toolkit. I've never looked in that toolkit. Let's see if there's anything in there. No. Nope. All right. Let's get this cable on that side. Here, what someone did was they removed the fuse and just ran a wire to the positive. If you're going to be working on bikes, always keep some of these around, vintage bikes. Fuse holder with a 20 amp fuse. I'm going to throw that in. I believe this is just for the charging system, so right now I'm not going to connect it to the battery. I had to put a negative cable in because it didn't have one. I mounted the solenoid upside down. This way I can test it up here to see if it's, makes continuity between them. When I hit the start button, if anything happens, it would be tough to do if it were upside down in the bike. So that's why I have it here, and if it works, I'll put the cables on and flip it back over. All right, this is just a temporary thing. Got cut off all that junk that was on the other side, put a connector on. This is way too big, but it's the only size I have. I already checked for shorts and all that, so we're good there. This one could be hooked up. It's not shorting out either, but I don't think we need it right now because obviously this is not fused. It's got to be part of the charging system. Probably goes either to here or to the regulator. I don't think this bike has a regulator now that I think about it. I don't think these had regulators. So we'll hook this up with a washer, and we want to see if this solenoid's working. All right, we got our battery hooked up. Let's hope we don't blow the fuse when we turn the key on. Nothing will short out, but at least we know we're protected if there is a short. All right, I didn't see anything pop. Okay. One's the horn and one's the start. Let's put this on ohms. Nothing happens when I hit the start button. Let's try this key in a different position. I hear the solenoid going. Okay. No noise out of the solenoid. Let's turn this key off. And let's unplug one of these wires here. We can do both actually. So with the solenoid unplugged, I have my negative on the negative side of the battery, 12 volts here. Turn the key on. Let's see if we get any voltage at either one of these wires. Okay, we have 12 volts there, which that's a good sign. So that means that that one should ground. When I push the button, and it doesn't. Let's see. Maybe our handlebars aren't grounded. Let me get a jumper wire and see if that's the case. Nothing is happening. So, let me grab you here. I went over to the handlebars here. I believe that's the starter button there. And I don't see any wires coming out of this side. They all seem to be coming from this side. So I believe that maybe this isn't even connected to anything. There's a bunch of wires hanging out. All these wires are disconnected. The horn wire and the what appears to be the lights. So I guess we got to take this switch off and see what's going on in there. So here's the switch where the button is. And there's definitely no wires coming out of this. There should be wires coming out that run through a hole under the handlebar here, through and out here. And then to the harness, which could be one of these, back to there. This one's cut. That's nice. Yeah, this bike needs a harness anyway. So let me take that screw out and we'll figure out where this wire is supposed to go. And go from there. Okay, so I took this apart. There's definitely something missing in here. I mean, what it has is a ground here, and then when you push the button, that's supposed to make a contact with something that's not there. So, I'm going to leave that. And I am going to try to find out what wire, with an ohm meter, connects to this one. So I can figure out which one of those wires up here, I'm guessing it's here somewhere, is the one that goes back there. Okay, so I found out which wire ohms out to that wire. So this wire is the wire that does the starter from the switch, which obviously the wire's missing. We'll just check this with this. And yes. So it's a little high, but I have it's 2 ohms or 3 ohms, so, but that's because I got to run it through so many different things. Now, we know that that's the wire. Let's try this again. With our ohm meter going between the 2 posts, turn our key on. Now, when I touch this to ground, if that solenoid's good, it should make contact, you should hear something. So you can hear it. But nothing. All right, let's double check our connections and try it again. All right, I checked my connections to the meter and it still does the same thing. It makes a noise, so it sounds like the solenoid's moving, but it's not contacting the 2 when the plunger comes out. I think this one we can take apart. We'll see, maybe it just needs a good cleaning. Okay, so I have the solenoid apart. These 2 stems, one is the battery power and one goes to the starter, are these 2. It almost looks like somebody's already tried to clean these once. This disc will make the contact between these 2 when it shoots out. Now, if I hook this to battery, this should come out and this should make a contact to here when it's all together. Okay, so I have this ready. I have the one side grounded and the other side will go to positive. We'll see what happens. You see it in there? There's a little whiff of smoke I saw. But it does work. So let's clean this up and see if we can get this to make a contact. Also, I should say on the back there's a little cap. If you take the cap off, you can push this little button that will raise it manually. So after taking it apart and cleaning it up, I don't know if you can see, there's 0 ohms there. Push the button, 1, take it off, 0, push it up, 1, 0, 1. So this should work. We're going to put it in and try it. 0 ohms. We're going to ground this like we're hitting the button. So we have a starter solenoid that works now. Let's hook up some cables. So I've got the starter solenoid back in, and you can see if you take this cap off, you could just push this button if you were having some other wiring issue. And it would connect directly from the battery to the starter without pushing that button or anything. You could start it that way. So I think I'm going to hook up my wires to the positive, and then we'll see if this engine cranks over. I'll check the oil and hope we don't hear any god-awful noises. I put some oil in it. It was a little low, but not that bad. I did put an oil pan underneath it because I was afraid that there was a crack or something. It wasn't really on the stick, but I put a cord in and that brought it up. So, not that bad. All right. Shall we see if the starter turns the engine over? Oof. I know it turns over by kickstart, but I have no idea how this engine sounds because you're just kicking it little by little. All right. Key on. Are you ready? Oh, it turns over. Slow, but it does turn over. There could be a lot of issues with grounds with this bike. I don't know. One thing I did notice though, that new muffler I put on was puffing out rust. So yeah, it's doing something, pushing some kind of compression out. All right, well, I mean, it's turning over slow, but it's, I should probably check the voltage in that battery, because honestly, I don't know. I've been doing a lot of testing with it between bikes. So I'll hook that up and we'll see what that reads. All right, I just had the biggest struggle trying to find neutral on this thing, just to make sure it was in neutral. There might be a gearbox issue, because even in neutral, it seems to lock up. But hopefully the engine, will crank. And I don't know if the rear tire spun last time or not. 12.2, so that's not the greatest voltage without the key on. Let's turn that on. Still 12.2 because I don't think anything else is getting powered up, hopefully. And let's see what it goes down to as it cranks. Yeah, it goes down to 8. Jumps back up to 11 point something. So the battery's probably low, but I mean, we got it to this point. So we got some progress. We got the engine to crank over. I'll charge the battery and we can try this again at some point. I would like to get back on this one though, because this is the one I want to get done first. But again, I got parts that I got to get, and I can't paint. Maybe I'll start with the back. Start working on that first. I don't know, we'll see. But for now, we made some progress. And it wasn't much, but any progress is progress, right? All right, so thanks for watching. I'll catch you on the next one. Take care.